Heyo, Pups here. One of the most commonly asked questions about Sons of the Forest is, who do we play as? And unfortunately, we're not giving a satisfying answer. This is mostly due to the game's indirect style of storytelling, but if we observe contextual clues, we can at least build a few solid ideas for who we might be. For example, we know we are an absolute DILF by looking at this beautiful image of our stock family. Nobody gets a wife and daughter that generic without looking like Giga Chad's third cousin. But jokes aside, everything I want to talk about is built on one crucial piece of information. Our character is either a mercenary or PMC, private military contractor, possibly even both. Why is this important? It allows us to ask questions like, who hired us? Is money our main motivation? Do we follow moral code? What connections and history do we have? And so forth. These questions open up explanations not only for our crew, but also why we matter in the grand scheme of things. We have importance in the interaction between what I argue are the three main power players in the story: Sahara Therapeutics, Puffcorp, and the LeBlanc daddy-son duo. This sounds like a lot, I know, but I'll do my best to break things down for you. Be prepared to ask questions in the comments, and please support this channel with a painless subscribe and thumbs up. And this is your fair warning, this video contains a lot of spoilers, so if you don't want to be spoiled, please click away now. Okay, now we can dive into the fun stuff. This comes down to the fact that we're working for the business that is Puffcorp. It is technically illegal for anyone to be hired for private gain, and mercenaries are straight up against the Geneva Convention. But PMCs somehow exist anyway without breaking too many laws. I tried to Google my way to greatness on this one, and the best way I can describe it: if this is incorrect, sue my search bar, not me. With all legality considered, this probably doesn't make too much of a difference in the long run. Basically, we are highly trained and employed privately. Judging by the gear, this job can be anything from harmless intelligence gathering to straight up murder.
I brought you frankincense. Thank you. And I brought you myrrh. Thank you. Murder. Judas.
We can be hired by different employers, a major detail which brings us to our next question. According to the lore, the Puffcorp went missing for about 31 weeks before we were sent to search for them. Someone had to be standing in the big office to keep things running, and since the mutation dinner incident invited prestigious guests, the Puffcorp weren't the only gold-throned family to go missing. Realistically, I think just 1 month of a global business power going MIA is too long for nothing to be done. Before the players' team is sent out, there have been several other expeditions from not only Puffcorp but the other missing families. This explains the mess of random camps with dead bodies and men dressed similar to us in the found footage cams. So with all the carnage up to this point, why in the heck would another highly trained team be sent to this literal hellhole of an island? Wouldn't people have learned by now that island equals not alive? Well, this time one thing's different. We have intelligence from all the mistakes made by the missions before us. This gives us a well-developed map of the island, marked points of interest, supplies laying around, and more. We can't forget Kelvin, who I believe has been to the island before and barely escaped with his life. He knows the land pretty well despite severe head trauma and no map, and he didn't bother to brief himself at the beginning like Fisheye and us. He already knows
everything.
And if he's been here before, it explains how he has a connection with Virginia, at least enough of a connection for her to sob over his limp corpse. In addition to this, our character is seasoned in supernatural warfare. Our tattoo says, "Fight demons!" While this may just be a cool line to establish our dominance, it can also explain why we're able to fight with a crucifix and damage demons with mortal weapons. With all factors considered, we have, or had, team members with beneficial skill sets specifically for this mission. Too bad that most of the Puffcorp's hiring money was shot down by an agent of Sahara Therapeutics, which leads us to the third question. After the crash, we were nearly killed by Zhang, a Sahara Therapeutics spy working within Puffcorp. He could have very well killed us, but for some unknown reason spared us to fight the horrors of the island with Kelvin. I have 3 theories on why I think this is the case. The most implausible answer is that he figured we would be killed by mutants and throw them off his back for a while. However, he seems to be pretty well off on the island, and just barely reaches the cube at the end of the story. A somewhat likely second option, he could be wanting to enlist us on his side. We can see him with some fighting men during the Puffed-In fight intro. He could be planning to offer us a generous cash bribe to defect into his mercenaries. Due to his connections with Puffcorp, he could already know all about us and simply be playing mind games to get his way. The third option, which could go hand in hand with number 2, is keeping us alive for Sahara's interests. This can mean experimentation or using us to lure in the last living heir of the Puffdens. Virginia was fond of Kelvin, and Kelvin was in no shape after the crash to care for himself. So if we stay alive, the lobotomized man also stays alive, and Virginia follows him, and eventually we all fall into Zhang's shenanigans in the bunkers. At the time of this video's creation, Timmy is not officially in the game. However, people have cheated him onto the scene. He has many animations that suggest he will be in the world. What's more interesting is that he's extremely violent towards us, yet seems to be working with us later in the game when entering the final bunker. This is where the PMC Mercenary Identity becomes extremely important. Men who look like us were hired to kill the Cultists and serve Sahara Therapeutics. The exact same people who literally killed Timmy, sent his father through hell and back to revive him, and gave him gruesome lifelong mutation problems. There is no way for him to know if we are also working for Sahara or not, but he has obviously dealt with our kind before. Even when he finds out that we are not working for Sahara, he has full reason to feel threatened by us and where our loyalty can shift. After all, if we're here merely for a paycheck, we're very open to her bribes, and there's very little that a father-son duo can offer us. I'm not sure if End Night will allow us to achieve multiple endings depending on whether or not we side with Timmy or Sahara, as the story seems to already have a canon ending, but this is a pretty neat idea to think about, especially since we were given the choice to save or sacrifice Timmy in the first Forest game, but him surviving is obviously the true ending. Lastly, I wanted to talk about multiplayer characters. As a bonus! Obviously, there were other survivors of our team when the helicopter went down. I don't think this is something we should think too much about. But there is one particular character model I lovingly nicknamed Einstein that looks like an old nerdy man you wouldn't expect to be a seasoned veteran. The devs could have just thrown him in there for the ha-ha funnies of it, but my overanalyzing brain likes to think this is confirmation that our team had handpicked skill sets for the mission. We weren't sent in to burn it down with guns blazing. Our employer, whomstever they may be, had lots of knowledge about the situation and the Puffed-In family. That's worth exploring. Our employer is also femphobic because there is not a single dang woman on this team. I think that brings us to the end of the video. I plan on breaking down more bits of the lore, specifically on the Cultists, Kelvin, and Timmy, but I'm gonna give the End Night devs a bit of time to update things in case there are big changes or reveals. If you have questions or if there's lore I may have missed, let me know in the comments. Also, tapping the like button and subscribe really helps the channel a lot and keeps videos like this one coming. Y'all have a blessed day and keep being awesome.